Miniwargamer Dave here from MiniWarGaming.com. Welcome to another exclusive video specifically made for you members. I don't have to tell you that you're members, you know it already. So, today's project, we're going to make a stone wall. The materials we're going to be needing for this project are as follows. The most crucial component of this project is polystyrene. Just get a block of it. That's all you're going to need for this project. Got a small tub of sand here. So I got a tub of static grass and I have some modeling flock, just some fine turf that we're going to be sprinkling over top. White PVA glue. Nice serrated bread knife. You're going to be cutting the polystyrene with this, and it's also nice to have. Cup of water for painting. Now let's whip out the Reaper paints. Got some pure black, stone gray, and linen white. Why do we use linen white? Because it has a slight tinge to it that's not the pure white that you can get. For those of you who don't have Reaper paints and only have GW paints, the equivalents are Chaos Black, Codex Gray, and Skull White. Last but not least, you're going to want a little bit of masonite board. I'm going to be cutting out 2 little strips to put my stone wall on top of. Now, let's get right to the project. So to speed things up a little bit, I've gone ahead and cut the masonite board into 2 equally sized bases. And I've shaved the edges a little bit just to make them curved, and I've beveled them up just to give it more of a natural look. What we're going to want to do first is cut up this piece of polystyrene into stone blocks. With this, there are no exact measurements, just going for a rough outline. Okay, so your next step is to cut little pieces out. Now these are blocks, individual blocks. They can be different heights, different thicknesses, and having different heights and different thicknesses is a good thing. You want it to be randomized. You don't want it to be uniform, or at least not in this project. Not the way I'm making it right now. And once again, just a safety tip, be very careful when using your knife. Always cut away from yourself. And once again, it's fine that they are different thicknesses. Okay, so we have a bunch of blocks here. Something to keep in mind. See this right here, how it's rough? You see that it is rough. That right there, that's rough. And that's caused from cutting it with the serrated edge of the bread knife. That's a little bit trippy. I'm seeing my reflection in the knife there. Anyway, back to the project. See how it's a little bit rough? That's what you want. When you paint them later on, it'll be a lot easier, it'll look a lot more realistic, and that is the look we are going for. Just keep that in mind. Have that rough look. And have that rough look on all 6 sides of each of your blocks. And in order to do that, just look for all the smooth parts of each block and rough it up a little bit. Not too much, just enough for it to look more natural. And just rough them up. And I'm going for a slightly different shape of block right now, a little bit longer, just to add more variety to my block wall. Feel free to do this yourself. It'll look a lot better. And I've got a relatively thin piece here that I'm going to cut into blocks. Well, these pieces are a little bit too thick. I'm going to cut them in half. There we go. That's better. Much better. Okay, now for the fun part. We are going to start to glue these blocks randomly to this board, just like so. Make sure that the pieces that you get are random. There's no rhyme or reason to the shape or size of the rock. You don't want the same piece right next to one another if you can help it. And that's what the bottom tier is going to look like, and you're just going to continue following, placing these other ones right on top. Try to make sure that the joints don't match up, because that's what laying blocks is all about. That's the first couple courses. I'm going to take those off and glue them in place. Your glue, in this case, is essentially your mortar. Now, one of the wargamers left a comment on one of the videos, and that is to always keep your glue nozzle as clean as possible, especially when you're doing detailed work. I thank you for that comment, and I thought I'd like to put that in the video. And that goes to show the comments that you leave on these videos, they are read and they are considered. Now to glue these blocks in place. Dump them off there. Now the best way to do this is to put just a little dab of glue on the bottom of each block and place it wherever you want. Make sure to leave gaps in between each block. Don't have them right next to each other. And there you go. Your first course is in place. Now we glue on the second course. There we go. The second course is in place. So this is what we have so far. All right, now for our next tier. This is a fun, easy Saturday afternoon activity, or perhaps an after-school project, or perhaps a wait till all the kids are asleep project, or maybe it's a project to do while watching a movie. Whatever it may be, it is easy and it's fun. Wargaming doesn't get much funner than this. Yeah, that's right, I just said funner. There we go. 3 courses. Gonna add a couple of random stragglers here and there, just to make it a little bit more interesting. And that's one side done. Now, let it sit and dry, and it's important to let it sit and dry completely. Don't try to paint it when the glue is still wet, otherwise you're gonna move your blocks out of place. Now to start on the second half. Just jumped ahead a little bit on this part, and I'm just gonna throw a few random ones here and there, just to spice it up a little bit. Makes our life more interesting. And come to think of it, I'm going to put a few of these blocks on the actual base itself. And there we go, that's 2 halves. Let this sit and dry for a good amount of time, and after that we're going to come back and base coat it in black. Once you've left this overnight to dry, you're going to want to base coat this in black, whether it's pure black or chaos black, it's the same difference. If you use the GW chaos black, I suggest adding a little bit of water to it. With this, it's very important that you get in between all of the little cracks and areas in between the blocks. If you miss them, it'll be nice and blue for the whole world to see. And you don't quite want that. Just keep that in mind. This is the fun part. I mean, painting, whether it's painting miniatures or painting terrain, it's the fun part. As you can see, I've done my best to paint in all the little cracks. Every single crack that you can see, that your eye can see. Once this dries, you may find that you've missed a bunch. That's fine, you can just go over top of them. But for the most part, we've painted up all the cracks. Now let's go over the actual base itself. So just let this sit and dry until it is completely dry, and then we can add our accented layers. Okay, now that this is all dry, I'm just going to add some gray paint and paint it up about 90%. You're going to want to leave a little bit of the black in different places, especially the cracks, just to give it more of a 3-dimensional look to it. Giving it a good amount of gray, we're not covering up 100% of it. Especially in rocks like that that have been cut with the serrated edge of the bread knife, and you can really see lots of detail in there. That's good. It's good. You can see a lot of the black still, and that's what we want. That accentuates the details, makes it more 3-dimensional, which is important for a project like this because, yes, we're making terrain and obviously it's not real, but the more realistic we can make it look, the better. If it was dry brushing, I would simply say dry brush it gray, but it's more than dry brushing. There's more paint on it. Looking at that, it looks a little bit too dark, so I'm just going to add a bit more gray. Compare that to the unpainted part, and we can really see the difference. Once the gray is all dry, now it's time to break out your white. This will be more of a dry brush layer. And we're just going to accent different areas. We're not going to put too much on. Boy, does this ever bring out the detail. Especially if you do it on all the corners of the blocks here. It's really all it needs. Now it's time to break out the quick dry tacky glue, or your white PVA glue. Essentially it is white glue, but it's just a better brand and it's faster drying and it's all around better. So we're just going to put some on the base like so, and a little bit on the front, and on the sides, and a little bit, a few random areas like that. Use your brush and brush it around. The reason why I'm painting it on the actual blocks themselves like this is so we can sprinkle on flock to make it look like moss is growing on the blocks. You also have the option of watering down your glue at this point here if you're just putting it on the base. And since it's just a small base, I've decided not to. There we go, every part that wants to be covered is covered. First I'm going to sprinkle the sand on the base here, just on the bottom. Only need a little bit on the bottom there. And a bit on the side there. And on the other side. And just a little bit on the back. Now for the flocking part. We can use a mixture of the fine turf and a static grass. So let's start with this fine turf. Just need a little bit. Here we got the moss growing all over the blocks here. It's great. Adds all that realism. See that? That's just great. Now let's break out the static grass. A little bit of static grass on there. You just need a little bit for this. I would suggest using tweezers if you're putting them on a miniature. A little piece of terrain like this, you could use the tweezers, but it's fine if you don't. And just to add a little bit of static grass to the front here. It's okay if you see a little bit of the white glue underneath. It will dry clear. Dump off the excess. And there you have it. Stone walls, easily made. You can do it too. It's fast, it's easy, and it looks great. Here's a couple of pieces I made a year ago, and as you can see, same concept. And here's this year's piece. A little bit more colorful, I'd say. There you have it. Happy wargaming.